Hi there, this is Nick with the Ikigai Podcast, and my guest today on episode 37 is Miku. And Miku, you are a YouTuber, an online Japanese teacher, a podcaster, a video creator, and a language lover. And one of your missions is to connect Japan with the world through teaching Japanese. Thank you for coming onto the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's a real joy to have you because I've been watching you on YouTube for quite a while. And then one day I just thought I should ask Miku onto my podcast after watching a particular video, which we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you too. So you speak both Spanish and English, and of course, Japanese. So it sounds like you have a love of learning, and in particular languages. Yeah, So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I love languages. And since I was a kid, I learned English in Kumon. Do you know Kumon?
Oh, yes. Those schools.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't understand anything, but I used to love singing English song. And also in high school, so in junior high school and high school, we learn English. You know, we need to learn English, but it's not like we learn how to communicate. But I used to love learning grammar as well. And after that, I went to Spain to learn Spanish. And that's how I started to really communicate with foreign languages. And I fell in love with it because I could use languages that I learned to communicate and to learn different culture and to connect with other people. So I love learning languages. And now currently I'm learning Italian as well, little by little. Yeah.
Actually, I think I've seen you use a few Italian words in some of your videos. When you play all these different characters and you wear wigs and you do all this fun stuff. So it's really good. It's very engaging. So I love it. So what attracted you to learn Spanish? Was there anything specific? The culture, the food? Did you meet someone someday?
It's really strange because I didn't even know where Spain was when I decided to learn Spanish.
Oh, wow.
I was going to learn English in university. And on the first day of university, there's this orientation where they introduce you different courses. And I was waiting for English course introduction. But when they started to talk about Spanish course introduction, I felt something inside of me that I never felt before. I was like, I need to go to Spain and learn Spanish. And I couldn't explain why. And everybody was telling me like, Miku, you should learn English because how are you going to use Spanish when you work in Japan? And I was like, I don't know, but I want to go. So I went to Spain. And after that, so when I was in Spain, I couldn't speak English at all. And after I came back from Spain, I was like, I should learn English now. I should learn to speak. So that's how I started to learn English and Spanish.
Amazing. Yeah, that's the language I'd probably like to learn too. When I was a teenager, I did go to Madrid, and it was fascinating. I remember going to lots of art galleries and museums, and I actually saw a bullfight, which that was quite a cultural experience. And I do like flamenco music. So I've always wanted to go to Spain and learn how to play. So yeah, learning another language certainly opens up your world.
Yes, it definitely did. It changed my life, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Sure, obviously with Japanese. And on that subject of Japanese, your mission is to teach Japanese in a fun and effective way. And you definitely do that on your YouTube channel. There are so many teachers, but I really like the way you teach. It's fun, it's engaging, but it's well structured. I think you put a lot of care into your videos, obviously a lot of preparation. But how did you become a YouTuber? What was the journey?
So after I graduated from university, I worked in Hakone in ryokan. And when I was working there, I was like, am I gonna continue working here, or am I gonna do something that I really love doing? And when I was really struggling with the decisions, I found this job as a Japanese teacher in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So I went to Mexico to teach Japanese in a school. So I worked in a school, Japanese school. And when I was working there, I met a lot of students and friends, and they told me like, I've been learning Japanese for 2 years, but I don't know how to speak, or I don't know how to talk to my Japanese friends casually. And also people I've met when I was traveling in Europe or when I was in Spain, they also told me the same thing. So I said to myself, why don't you start sharing something that you can share? And I didn't even watch YouTube. So I used my platform, Instagram platform.
Okay.
And I made like 1 minute videos, but I had no idea how to edit or how to film things. So I used my crappy phone and phone and paper and pen. And I wrote words on the paper, and that's how I taught Japanese at first. I don't know what I was thinking, and I don't know how I could upload such a low quality video. But I did. And somehow people watched it, and my Instagram account grew. And when I came back from Mexico, I felt this limitation to what I can teach in 1 minute. So I decided to move to YouTube so I can make longer video and teach more complicated stuff like grammar. And that's how I started my YouTube. But I never, ever expected to become a YouTuber or share lots of videos on YouTube. So I'm really, really grateful that I get to do that.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting how it starts with really humble beginnings. You're using a crappy phone and just writing out words, but that was obviously an engaging and effective way for people to learn. And I think that's the struggle. I certainly struggled with Japanese. I focused on grammar books and learning kanji and spent all this time, and then really struggled to communicate and had this frustration, like I'm putting all this dedication into the fundamentals, but I just couldn't say what I wanted to say. And I think, to learn how to speak, there needs to be a different approach than sort of traditional teaching methods. And I guess people are really lucky now to have something like YouTube or podcasts. So that's a great story. And as I said before, you are I think you're a great teacher. You're fun, you're engaging. When I see a new video pop up, I go, oh, awesome, I'm going to watch this. So I love how you use humor in your videos, and you take on characters and you wear wigs. And so it must take so much work for you to record and then edit, but you do it really well. And
I enjoy it so much too. Every time something I get like Amazon box, and I live with my parents, and my dad is like always telling me like, your wig came again. So
a new wig.
Wow. Your new wig.
Well, that's interesting. So what do your parents think of what you're doing? Because I imagine for them it was a bit unusual when you're saying I'm teaching on YouTube. Yeah,
my dad didn't understand my job, so he thought I was just playing. And then I always tell my dad, I actually have a job, Dad. It's okay.
Yeah, that would be hard to explain, but I guess maybe they're happy. You're at home most of the time, and they can spend more time with you.
Yeah, I enjoy it so much. And I used to hate learning languages with textbooks too.
Yeah.
So I watched Friends, and that's how I improved my English, the TV show Friends.
Oh, okay.
And that was so much fun. And I didn't feel like I was learning English. I was just having fun and learning English naturally. And I remember that when I started to teach Japanese. So I wanted to make something that people just want to watch and enjoy, and without them realizing they're learning Japanese. So I hope that people are enjoying.
Well, I definitely do. So, and yeah, I think that's a great way to learn when if you can't go to the country, maybe you try and immerse yourself in a TV show, or you listen to something. I do is I'll just listen to podcasts that are in Japanese on any sort of subject. So I'll listen to actually Ken Mogi's podcast, and he just interviews all these interesting guests, and most of the time I sort of understand everything. So it's this great confirmation that, oh, wow, I do know a lot of words, and it's very satisfying. So
yeah, that's the best way.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and I imagine for you, teaching Japanese, both privately and on YouTube, is a source of Ikigai for you. So is that how you feel? Yes, it is. I love connecting with people through doing what I'm doing. And I met so many amazing people through this project. So that's the blessings that I got. And whether it's my students that I'm teaching online, or people who are doing the same kind of thing on YouTube, and I met through Miku Japanese, and I feel so happy when I get to connect with them, because if I didn't started this, I wouldn't have met them. I wouldn't have learned from them. So yeah, connection is my Ikigai, I would say. Wow, that's what I tend to say. I actually say it's like intimacy, where you connect to someone and you have this intimate moment, whether it's something like this, where we're sort of having this intellectual and I guess we're sharing ideas about language and culture, but it's there's this feeling of satisfaction. It's rewarding, and it's tied into a relationship. And yeah, I think that's missed. Obviously, that is missed in the Western interpretation. And I would say relationships are one of the most strongest sources of Ikigai people can have. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, so you really seem to thrive when you're teaching. I can see your personality, and you just seem like you're being your true self. And that's probably why you're so good. And what's interesting is you focus on intermediate level speakers who want to become fluent. So really, I'm probably close to your ideal students. And I think for me, your videos are just so helpful and what I need. So why did you decide to focus on that niche? So the reason why I started all this is because language is really enriched my life. And like I said in the beginning, it changed my life. It opened so many doors for me, and it connected to so many amazing people that I love in my life. And that's the reason why we learn languages, right? We don't learn languages to learn to say, this is a pen, right? We learn to we learn to talk about different ideas, or we learn languages to share our ideas or perspectives. And I'm sure that people who are learning Japanese want to connect with people using Japanese. And there are so many resources for basic Japanese learners, but I really saw the need to teach intermediate and advanced Japanese learners, because they want to jump from beginner to intermediate, but that's where they hit the wall. Yes. So I wanted to help
those people who really want to use Japanese to connect with Japan or Japanese people, or who have Japanese family members there. So that's the reason why I focus on that level or niche. Yeah.
That's really interesting, because it seems to be driven by this desire for you to help people connect. And
yes,
it's also smart because you're right. There's so many free resources on how to speak basic Japanese. And there are quite a lot of YouTubers also in that niche. And there's a lot of videos on Instagram doing that as well. But I think there was a lack of teachers helping students go from intermediate to, fluent. So you're probably also very savvy and smart, finding that niche.
I just came back to my why, and that's what I wanted to focus on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What I love about your videos on YouTube is you don't just teach Japanese, you tie in Japanese culture, which I love. And I love it when I meet Japanese people who are enthusiastic about their own culture, and you seem to be. And outsiders see Japan as, mysterious and fascinating and even strange, with its beautiful traditions, its long history and modern quirky pop culture. So how do you see your own culture?
That's a really interesting question, because before I went to different countries, I didn't know so much about Japanese culture. I wasn't just aware, or I wasn't interested in it. I mean, yes, we learn in school and we do like different traditions, like mamemaki or hichigo-san, or different traditions, right? And we clap our hands in front of the shrine and pray on the first day of the year. But we never know why. They don't teach us why we do that, the reason behind. I mean, of course, it depends on the family, depends on the person, but personally, I didn't know. And when I went to Spain and I saw Japan objectively, and a lot of people ask me so many questions about Japanese culture and Shintoism, Buddhism, I didn't know so much. So I was so ashamed. I was like embarrassed that I didn't know. So that's when I started to learn. And I saw so many beautiful, I started to realize that Japan is really, really unique and beautiful. As each country is unique and beautiful, I found so many deep culture. Like I started to learn Sado, tea ceremony.
Nice. Tea ceremony, yeah.
Yeah. And in there is the philosophy of Ichigo Ichie.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of it? Yeah. So one life, one encounter, one lifetime, one encounter. It's not only meeting with people, but also opportunities and what you have in front of you. This experience that I'm talking with you, Nick, this is not going to repeat again. Nice. This is just going to be one time. So appreciate this moment. Like this kind of philosophy, and also Japanese people place importance on living with nature. It changed a lot after Second World War.
Yeah.
But it used to be like that. And that's the core of Shintoism, like connecting with nature and appreciating nature, because nature is God. And those things I really love. And at the same time, I see problems and things that don't align with my values. Like, like honne and tatemae.
Oh,
Yeah, your true feeling and your public face. Like, in order not to offend anyone, you kind of try to say things that you don't think, or those kind of things. I feel a little bit, I don't feel aligned. So I learned so much about amazing things, and I also learn things that I don't have to follow anymore.
Wow, you've touched on so much that just resonates with me. Is it kotowaza ichigo ichie, that was the first expression or meaningful expression I learned when I came to Japan. And I think it was used to promote the movie Forrest Gump. And my Japanese teacher had us, write out the kanji for that, ichigo ichie. So I have a very fond memory of learning that and then seeing the movie Forrest Gump in Japan, in Tokyo, and recognizing, and that whole movie is a series of these once-in-a-lifetime encounters. And appreciating them is perhaps something we need to do and recognize more. And then this idea of, how Shintoism is something I've explored. And I recently found that out, that traditionally Japanese perceive God as nature, and nature had these expressions of gods or spirits tied to them, which is very different to, I guess, other cultures where we tend to see God above everyone. And then man, I guess, comes under God. And then man has some sort of control over nature, which hasn't really worked well for us. So we've got a lot of problems because of that mindset or that attitude. Yeah. And it's interesting how you mentioned your values and what's important, what aligns to your values, and even aspects of your own culture that you struggle with because they don't align. And I often think for many Japanese, living in Japan would be quite hard sometimes, where, as you said, honne tatemae, once you go out into society, so in the workplace or with other people, you have to put on, I guess, a mask almost, because you don't want to offend anyone, or you don't want to, I guess, break the ittaikan, the group harmony. So it's quite complicated, I think. Whereas in Australia, we have my pace. Is it my pace where we can just kind of, she'll be right. We're quite relaxed, and if we disagree, who cares? Like,
right.
So it's fascinating. But I mean, your culture is fascinating because of its history, because it was a closed country for an extended period of time. And I feel Japan's in this place at the moment where it's, in a way, maybe it's trying to protect certain cultural aspects, but like the rest of the world, I guess it's got to embrace change and maybe have more migration or more immigration. Sorry. Yeah. So it's at an interesting crossroads. Do you feel that as a Japanese citizen? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the population is going down and down. And then I think that government is trying to invite more workers, especially the care workers, people who take care of older people. Yeah. So it's gonna happen more and more, I think, in the future. And that's something that I'm thinking as well. Like, it's so different from their culture for those people who come to Japan.
Yeah.
And the language is so different and lifestyle is different. There should be more support for those people.
Nice.
And I hope that those people find like YouTubers like me or podcasters that are offering those kind of things for free. So it's gonna facilitate them to fit in Japanese culture, and also like sharing Japanese culture or how we think or how we act. I think it helps. And a lot of people told me that it helps to know why Japanese people say this and why they don't think this, like how we behave is really different. So yeah, I think that there must be more support for those people who are coming to Japan.
Yeah, I agree totally with you on that idea of, if you're learning a language, you must also learn the culture to be able to engage fully in that culture or country where you live. And I always thought that was a problem when I was teaching English, and I'd have advanced or fluent speakers, Japanese speakers, and I'd get into a classroom with them, and I'd say, right, we're going to talk about something. So we're not going to learn any grammar or words. Let's talk about something in the news. And just no one would offer an opinion, and there'd be silence. And I'd be saying, guys, what's going on? And I soon realized, okay, this is a cultural problem. And I was sort of speaking to my school manager saying, look, we've got to encourage these high-level students to speak. And the only way to do that is to sort of, not force, but to sort of say, in English-speaking countries, they freely give their opinion. They share their thoughts. Right. And that's something you can do as an English speaker, but it didn't happen. It was too ambitious, and that's probably in some way related to what we're going to talk about now. So yes, speaking of culture, I'd like to dive into this theme for this episode, which is this word Omoiyari. And while researching a book I'm currently writing, I was looking up this word because I wanted to include it in my book. And I couldn't find a lot of information. And I thought, I'll do a search on YouTube. And then I stumbled upon your video, and it was extremely helpful. It was all in Japanese. It's about 10 minutes. So it was a very in-depth explanation of Omoiyari. And I thought, thank God I found this video. It's so helpful because it really explained it. And your video is titled Mindset of Consideration, Omoiyari. And yeah, that really helped me. So first of all, thank you so much for recording that video. And it is the reason why I reached out to you. So let's start. This will be interesting because it's not an easy word to explain. How would you define Omoiyari?
So omoi means thought. So omoimasu means to think, and omoi means thought. And yari comes from the verb yarimasu or yaru, which means to give and to direct. So basically, omoiyari means to direct your thoughts or give your thoughts and take an action on it. So basically, you put yourself in others' shoes and think, oh, what can I do for this person now? Or what is this person feeling? What kind of trouble or problem is this person having now? And then you read the room and act on it.
Yeah. We'll get into that expression, read the room, in a minute. But yeah, I think what I've learned, and I learned from you, is it's going beyond empathy. So it's not just feeling sorry for someone or understanding how they feel. There's more to it. And I found a quote that might offer some perspective, and it is, if a person who helps wants to act according to the concept of Omoiyari, it is essential for him or her to learn how to assess the needs or feelings of the person in need. So I guess one of the crucial words is help. You actually help the person, and that would involve action, doing something.
And now that you said that, I also think that sometimes not doing anything can be omoiyari too. Okay. Yes, like for example, not saying something. You want to say something. You want to say something, or you want to do something now, but and then you stop there. Oh, maybe this is not the right time for me to say it. And you not saying it or not doing is also omoiyari. So yes, like doing something, like basically doing something for the other person, but there are some like exceptions, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of a conversation I had with Ken Moggy related to that. That's
wow.
When we're in some sort of social situation, yeah, you need to be mindful of what you say, because you never know. You could say something that alienates someone, and you won't know you've done that. And of course, we don't want to alienate people. And yeah, Japanese are very good at holding back. So that's another thing I learned.
Sometimes too much.
Too much, yeah. So there's this balance that maybe we'll talk about.
Yes.
And it's interesting for you. I think you probably discovered that balance after living abroad, and you understood, oh, wow, in other countries, they really speak their opinion, and that can be a good thing. And sometimes it's not a good thing. Maybe you saw examples of when it wasn't very productive or helpful. So, yeah, that balance, I think, is important. And it sounds like, to me, I probably think you found that balance. I think living in Japan helped me find that balance. So there is this benefit when you do live abroad, which we'll talk about actually later in the video. But let's stay on topic. So I'd like to read the description you wrote for your YouTube video, because I think it says a lot about who you are as a person. So, or would you like to read it?
Oh, please read it.
Okay, I'll read it. So here I go. If we can all consider other people's feelings and give love and kindness to each other, this world would become a peaceful place. If we can all realize we are just brothers and sisters, we will be united. If we can put ourselves in other people's shoes, we would not jump to judgments. We would listen to understand. I can also say that I felt so much Omoiyari in my life. People I've come across are so full of love and kindness. I think this world needs more of Omoiyari and connections. And yeah, when I read that, I thought, wow, what a beautiful, caring person. This is someone who seems very wise, and I thought, yeah, I'd like to connect with this person. So that's why I reached out to
you. Thank you.
Yeah. So something I read, and we kind of talked about this, but I read that Omoiyari is regarded as ideal communication in Japanese society, and it's something I think that's taught at school. So would you like to talk about this?
I think when I went to other countries, I realized that the way we communicate in Japan and the way they communicate in other countries is different. And that's not like this is good and this is bad. It's just that it's different ways of communications. Like, for example, when I'm talking in Japanese, it took me so long. When I'm talking in Japanese, I don't say yes or no very quickly, right? Like I go, I think this is good idea, but it's maybe better to do this way. So let's think about it together, kind of communication, right? And when I went to Spain, I struggled so much. It took me so long to learn to say yes and no, because I don't say yes and no so directly in Japanese. So that's when I realized, wow, it's really different. Japanese is really vague language, right? You know it, right? So that's first thing. And second thing is that we are not used to debating. We don't have debating culture. So we listen to each other. Usually, depends on the person, but we usually try to listen to the other person until they finish.
Nice.
And then we say something, right? But I struggled so much when I was living in Spain and Mexico, because it's not that they are trying to interrupt me, but when I'm trying to form sentences in my head in Spanish and then saying something, they talk about their ideas and I talk about my ideas, and it's more like building conversation. And it's not because they are not respecting me or anything. That's how they communicate, debating and talking about ideas.
Yeah.
So when I came back to Japan, I was so amazed by how patient and how I mean, that's how we communicate. So it's not like it's good and bad, but I was so amazed by how Japanese people listen to each other until the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not only the mindset, because Japanese language, the very important thing, the most important information comes at the end.
And the verb.
Right?
Yeah.
the verb.
Yeah.
Like if I say
Often.
食べる, like I eat, right? And if I goes up and 食べる means do you want to eat, right? And 食べた, I ate. 食べよう, let's eat. Like the important part comes at the end. So you need to listen until the end. So language itself, like you need to listen until the end. So
that's an interesting point, because that has been a realization for me. And also it was a source of frustration when I first started learning Japanese, because I began to understand that Japanese can just speak in verbs. And so after this podcast, my wife will probably go, "Dodatta?" That's all she'll say, which would translate to literally "how went." That's how you would translate it, "how went." Whereas in English, someone might say, "Oh, how did your podcast interview go?" Be this whole sentence. But because my wife knows the context, she's just going to say "dodatta." So, which maybe we could say, "Oh, how did it go?" But would still identify what we're, the subject with it. And yeah, I would be in these conversations with people and they'll just say a verb. What are you talking about? Like me, you, someone else? Like I'm thinking, what's
right.
And it just was so hard. And it's now as that I'm fairly fluent, it's also quite convenient. And so I'll just often say to my wife, "Taberu, nomu," or something. But so that's really interesting, that idea of the most crucial aspect of the sentence, or what's being said, comes at the end, and how that, I guess, that makes the listener wait to the end.
Right. Yeah. And also they just have this harmonious way of communication, I guess. Like, for example, if we are talking and I'm only talking, like I'm the only person who's talking, I realize, oh, I'm talking too much. I need to let Nick talk, right? Like that happens a lot in Japanese. In a group of people, let's say there's this shy person who's not talking, and other three people are talking all the time. Then one of them would realize, oh, this person is not talking. So someone ask her a question or something. So like, I think it's all about harmony or group, right? So that's what we learn in school pretty much. Yeah.
That's one of the examples you use in your video. And the great thing about your video is you have about 10 examples of Omoiyari. And that's a really good one. You're at a party, you notice someone's standing in the group, but they haven't said a thing. And I think, they might be shy or something. And so, you stop talking and say, "Hey, what do you think?" Or including someone. So it's very, it's consideration, this thoughtful consideration. So would you like to share more examples of Omoiyari that you mentioned in your video?
Okay, so for example, when you're feeling down and your mother, without you saying anything, makes your favorite dish, like because you're feeling down, like she's trying to encourage you or cheer you up. Or for example, when you are having difficult time and your friends just listens to you without saying anything, that is also omoiyari. And when I was working in Hakone, I made a mistake. I made a big mistake at work, and I was feeling so down. And my coworker left my favorite chocolate on my desk with a little note saying that, like, I'm always with you, and I'm gonna be with you, or you don't have to worry about it. It's not your fault or something.
Nice.
Like these little things. And every time I drop my phone or wallet, I find it. I'm a pretty clumsy person. So I think I dropped my phone a lot. And every time it comes back because someone dropped it off at the local police station. I think that where I dropped it was really far away from it, from the station, police station. But someone walked or someone went there to drop my phone, or I don't know. Yeah. One time when I was at the station, someone seemed a little bit sick, and that person was on a bench.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw someone buy a bottle of water and offer that to person.
Wow.
Like, are you okay? Like, maybe you should drink this water and then calm yourself down or something. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God. It's so heartwarming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had similar experiences in Japan, and one thing that almost always happens if I ask for directions is the person will walk me to where I'm trying to get. And sometimes it's a long distance, it's not just around the corner and here you are. It's like up all these stairs, crossing a street and round a corner and walking 20 meters, then another corner. It's like, oh, wow. And then you thank them and they're like, oh, no, and they just kind of, they're quite happy, and then they leave, and then like you're left amazed thinking, wow, that person spent 5 minutes of their time to take me here, and they're not seeking anything in return. And it is one of my favorite aspects is to actually, if I do take a friend to Japan, to see how they react to these acts of omoiyari, or just general kindness, or acts of non-confrontation or non-conflict. One night, and this was with a friend, I was with my brother-in-law, and we're driving, and we got to a small intersection, and another car was coming, and both cars slowed down and stopped. And I think my brother kind of nodded and put his hand out to say, go ahead. And this guy slowly bowed and slowly pulled away. And, it took quite a bit of time. And if that happened here, one of the drivers would be angry, like, come on, hurry up. There'd be this tension because you're taking so long. And my friend couldn't believe it. Like, wow, that everyone's so peaceful here. There's no sense of anger or frustration. And I think that says a lot about Japanese people, that these interactions with strangers, there's this approach of, I'm just going to be polite, kind, helpful, and there's no sort of anger or reaction.
No expectation.
Yeah. So it's always a joy for me to go back to Japan. I feel like I'm going back to a second home. And I have another story. This is in the 90s, and my mother came to see me, and I just bought a brand new camera, and it was, a really good camera. And I was working. I think she was going to Kyoto or somewhere for the day. And I said, oh, take my camera and take some photos. And she left it on the Shinkansen. And then she's thinking, oh no, I've left Nick's camera on the train. And she didn't tell me, because I met her at the train station. She didn't want to tell me for some reason. And then we had dinner or something. And then the next day she went back to the train station. I mean, I think it was Shinjuku or a major train station, and said, oh, look, I've lost the camera. And it was found and put in lost property. And, maybe it was a cleaner, or maybe it was another passenger. And that's maybe quite common in Japan. But in Australia, if that happened in Australia, your camera would be gone. There's no way you'd get it back. It would be, be a bonus for someone else.
Wow. So, I mean, every time I think I dropped my wallet as well, and nothing was taken. Like my credit card, all my credit cards were there. My money was there. Nobody took it, and it just came back as it was.
Yeah. I mean, I think that happens outside of Japan, but maybe not to the same degree. Yeah. So this word really got me thinking. And is it just something unique to Japan, or is it something we do experience outside Japan? And you mentioned you've lived both in Spain and Mexico. So, yeah, can you give us some examples where you received omoiyari in those countries?
Yeah. I mean, we have this word omoiyari in Japanese, but it's everywhere. Like it's not unique to Japan. So when I was in Mexico, and obviously I didn't know which bus I was taking, and I was really panicking, and someone saw me panicking, and someone asked me, "Are you okay? Like, can I help you?" Like, this is also omoiyari, and it happens everywhere. Yeah. Every time I travel and I seem lost, people approach me, especially in countryside, I would say. Okay. In a big city, people tend to be very busy and they're just walking towards their destination. But I think in countryside, or when people are more like have more time, peace, they tend to do that. And for example, when I was in Mexico, I had no idea what kind of chili they were putting outside of the taco restaurant. And I thought this chili that looks like green, I thought they were avocado sauce. And I put a lot of them on my taco.
Really? Okay, probably not avocado.
Yeah. And a stranger was like, no, you shouldn't put that one so much on your taco. Like, so omoiyari and kindness, I think they're very similar. But I feel like omoiyari, because Japanese people, we don't verbally say what we want or what we want the other person to do so much. We try to like read the situation and help the other person without that person saying anything.
Yes.
I feel like that is omoiyari, and kindness can be, you ask for help and that person helps you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes to the point that perhaps Japanese are more socially aware. And I think there are reasons for that, which I think we'll touch on at the end. But generally they're more aware of the group culture, or just the group. And so they can spot all these things like, oh, my coworker seems a bit quiet today. Or this child or man or woman seem a little bit distressed. Maybe they need help. Whereas we might not notice it as much, or if we do, I guess, depending on the person, you ignore it and go on with your day, or maybe you stop and help. But I do think it's a universal concept. But there's a clear difference between just general kindness. You're really putting yourself in the position of someone else and almost feeling and understanding what they're going through. And I guess an expression related to that, or to the concept of omoiyari, is this one of my so many favorite expressions and words I have of Japanese. So here's another one. Kuki, is that right? Kuki o yomu. So what does that mean?
It basically means read the room or read between the lines, but you see the situations and you understand what to do or what not to do. And I think we learn in kindergarten or in school. I mean, especially in elementary school, the first thing you do when you go to school is to clean the classroom all together, right? So you learn to work as a group. If you're not cleaning, then someone else needs to clean where you were supposed to clean, right? So you learn how to act as a group, or how not to be selfish in a group, right? And I think in school we learn that, and also socially, I think if you can read between the lines, you are someone who can kuki o yomu, you are appreciated because you don't say inadequate things, for example, in a bad timing. And that's really important. But I do think that doing too much of it and not saying your opinion because you are reading the room too much can be also a problem, because you have so much stress going on internally. You don't have harmony inside of you because you're trying to protect the harmony outside. And that happens a lot in Japan, I think. So I don't know. I learned so much from my friends from other countries to stand up for yourself and to speak up and
speak your mind. Yeah.
To talk about your opinions or to talk about your ideas. So I think there should be a balance, like we talked about. Yeah.
This is really interesting because my last guest, he actually left Japan because he struggled with that aspect of Japanese culture where for him, it was just natural for him to want to share his ideas. And I guess in a way, he recognized he was a little bit of a troublemaker, but it just became natural for him to question authority or to question things. And he went and did a homestay in the States while he was at school. And then after that experience, he kind of knew, I don't want to live in Japan. When I finished school, I want to leave. And so he studied English really hard. And after he finished high school, he went and studied at university, and he's actually spent more time living in the US than Japan. But now he recognizes that, much of his work ethic and his thoughts and his values are strongly connected to Japan. And so he's also finding this balance, which I guess after life experience and maybe living in a different country, you can find that balance. I think we can mention this word now to this concept of, reading the room, or, literally it translates to reading the air. Yeah.
Yeah. Reading the air.
So being aware of, I guess, the social engagement around you and knowing, do I say something or not? I mean, I imagine there are people you would think of, he's like Nick's a kuki yomanai hito. he doesn't care and he doesn't consider others or something. Do you say that? Do you
know KY? Have you ever heard of it? KY. So kuki yomenai, and we put this KY. So people call people who cannot read the air KY.
Okay.
KY
really?
na hito.
So you go, he's a KY.
We have a word for that.
Oh, wow. I just learned something. So okay. So this actually ties in really well. So maybe someone who is KY, this term meiwaku, they cause trouble. And of course, meiwaku kakenaide was an expression I used to hear a lot. Once I became a father and my son started going to school, I would hear parents say this to children, and I think maybe maybe my wife says it to me sometimes. Meiwaku kakenaide. So meiwaku means trouble, and kakenaide means not to cause trouble. So do you see this link between, meiwaku kakenaide and omoiyari, or are they very different?
I definitely see the link between meiwaku kakenaide and omoiyari, because I don't know, but as a kid, we are always taught not to trouble, not to cause trouble, or not to bother other people. For example, if you're talking on the train, then your mother would say, "No, meiwaku ga kakaru." Like you're gonna bother other people, you know? So yes, being socially aware, being aware of the situation and understanding other people's need is omoiyari, but at the same time, you do that so that you're not gonna offend anyone or bother anyone.
Yeah.
Right. But I'd say that it's important to be aware, but sometimes we are thinking, I shouldn't bother other people. I shouldn't cause trouble to this person too much that we are losing connection. Yes. Because we are human beings and we need help. You know, we need to help each other. And like helping other people feels good too, because, you know, you did something good for other people or you feel connection with that person.
Yes.
Intimacy, right? And I think that as a Japanese person who lived in another country, I also see this problem where people try not to cause trouble to other people so that they're losing connection.
Yeah.
Or, you know? Yeah. So I think that using omoiyari, being socially aware so that you can help other people is good. But at the same time, you shouldn't be thinking too much like, oh, I shouldn't say this, or I shouldn't share this thought with this person because I'm going to cause trouble, because that might connect you with other people. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to this balance. I guess we have to find it. And I think to find that balance, I guess you've got to be tuned into your feelings, but also, yes, socially aware. And then there's always a context, you know, is it at work? Is it with strangers? Is it with friends? Is it with family? And so I guess you've got to use your judgment in a thoughtful way. But yeah, we should also at least feel free to express ourselves. And I guess we've just got to be cautious, you know, that what we're expressing is not going to cause trouble or hurt someone. I mean, ultimately you don't want to hurt someone, but ultimately you want to express yourself. And yeah, who knows, you're right. Maybe you're losing out on a lot of connection or intimacy because you're worried, oh, what if I upset someone? And I feel that in Japan. And
yeah,
I think when you're new to Japan, you're like, you know, what's wrong with Japanese? They never say anything. They never express themselves, and you don't know why. And then once you start understanding Japanese culture and Japanese relations, then you think, they're actually being very considerate, perhaps at their own detriment, you know, their own sacrificing their own desire to talk because they're considering others. And that's been a powerful lesson for me. I tend to I don't even hold back anymore. I really don't have the desire to strongly voice my opinion anymore. Not as often as I used to. So it's been very helpful to me. So I think if we summarize Omoiyari, I sort of noted 3 things. So it's sort of thinking beyond yourself and taking in the consideration of others and your surroundings, I guess your social surroundings. Also, from your own troubles and challenges and life experience, you can understand the pain of others or the anxiety of others, and then perhaps offer to help. And what you mentioned earlier, sometimes it's not doing, meaning you hold back on saying what you want or what you want to do, again, out of consideration. So it's kind of like Ikigai. It has this multi-dimensional aspect to it.
It's not simple, right? It has a lot of dimension, yeah.
But that's what makes this word and many other words fascinating for a learner of, you know, Japanese language or just Japanese culture. And I think living abroad is life-changing. And we're probably connected because I lived in Japan. I'm from Australia. And, you know, you're from Japan and you lived in Spain and Mexico. and it's opened up our worlds. And if we had not done that, we wouldn't be talking to each other today.
Yeah.
So I think living abroad can have this, life-changing effect. And for you and me, it also generated a business that you obviously love doing. You love teaching Japanese online and in person. And I feel greatly privileged to be sharing knowledge about Ikigai online. And I get to share with, yesterday I had a special guest talk about the Japanese diet. And I had people from, America and Australia. And I have people from France and Dubai and Finland and all these different countries. And I think, wow, how did this happen? And then I realized, wow, it probably happened because I spent, 10 years living in Japan, and it changed my life. So, yeah, do you obviously feel that too? Yeah, that living abroad's changed your life and you have this business.
Mm-hmm. And also you start to appreciate your own culture more, and you appreciate your root. So it's not like you are looking outward and saying, like, admiring other culture and disrespecting your own culture. It helps you to learn about your own culture and yourself. So it really helps. And also it balances you out.
Yeah.
You realize that this culture is not everything. I can learn from different culture and put little bit of good things and make your own, I don't know, cocktail, like your own. Yeah. So I'm grateful that I get to share my languages, my language and my culture. But at the same time, I'm grateful that I got to learn from different cultures. Honestly, like, we need to learn from each other. So yeah, thank you so much.
No, I agree totally. And I mean, I used to think Australia doesn't have a culture. Like, I'd go to Japan and think, well, look at this country, all this history and all these cultural practices and all the food. And but then I realized, no, Australia does have a culture, and we have, I mean, we have two really. We have, I guess, an indigenous culture that we probably haven't appreciated and explored enough. And then we have a multicultural, and we are a country that embraces other people. And, when you meet someone who's clearly perhaps their heritage, or maybe their second, third generation, we don't sort of say, oh, where are you from? We just take everyone as an Australian, and we have this kind of culture based on mateship, which is really perhaps one of the only unique cultural norms, or it's like the only word similar to Ikigai that it encapsulates, I guess, our culture of friendliness and helping strangers, but also being authentic and relaxed. And who knows, maybe I'll write a book on mateship.
I would love to read it.
You should come here. You mentioned you might come here to Australia, so maybe you could learn about mateship. But let's end with, how can people connect with you? So you've got your YouTube channel, which is Miku Real Japanese. And
yes.
How many videos do you have now?
I don't even know. I haven't counted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
Yeah, quite a lot. So if you are interested in learning Japanese, please check my YouTube out.
And you also have a website and a product. And so if you're an intermediate level speaker, I think your program would be really helpful, because you do things like shadowing, where you encourage people to basically repeat. It's not just listen and repeat, it's actually repeating as if you're a native speaker, which is really helpful. So we'll add the URLs to your YouTube. But what's the name of your website?
You can just type Miku Real Japanese shadowing audio.
Okay, awesome. All right.
You can find.
Well, I'll link to that. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. But also thank you for the wonderful work you do by sharing, both the Japanese culture and teaching the beautiful language of Japanese to thousands of people online.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for this opportunity to share our culture, Omoiyari. I had so much fun. And I'm so grateful for this time. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And I'm sure we'll have you back. So thank you, Miku.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Ikigai Podcast. To learn more about Ikigai or to become a certified Ikigai Tribe coach, visit ikigaitribe.com.